So when you look back at the year now, you obviously, I mean, look, this is what people are wondering, right? They'll see the title, they're like, oh my God, he got 99.95. Like, he must just have worked every single hour of the year. I mean, is there some truth to that? Like, run us through what your standard process was for studying. Like, how was your balance when you can, all things considered? I know you were going through COVID and that, which made the social balance probably harder to maintain. But run us through your general approach to the HSC.
I definitely wouldn't say that I studied crazy. Well, I think it was very much a situational thing. Like when there was exams coming up, I would study quite a lot. Like definitely in the month before trials and the HSC, there were days where I'd be studying for 8 hours and it would range from 3 to 8 hours. Maybe I'd take a day off every week or so just to refresh my brain. But I think throughout the year, I think I did a pretty good job of like maintaining like a good work-life balance. Like I had opportunities to go on lots of good trips like Duke of Ed. I went to the Great Barrier Reef for a field trip for geography. I was in a few bands throughout year 12. So I definitely had that range of things going on for me. I think it's just important to know when it's time to actually sit down and do the work. And that was something that I think was one of my strengths, that I was able to work hard when I needed to work hard, but also at the same time, take the time off when I didn't need to do that much work. And also know that even in the stressful periods, it's okay to take a break here and there. Because at the end of the day, if we're not in the best mental condition, how are we going to do well in the exams?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And were there any things you did in particular to maintain sanity, so to speak? Like what were you doing to keep that mental health in check?
Yeah, so I think COVID definitely played a big factor in the whole mental health thing. The fact that a lot of our usual escapes of like catching up with friends, like that we would usually employ during like studying for trials in the HSC, and definitely what I was doing in year 10 and 11 for exam blocks, were taken away from me. Like while we could have Zoom calls and games nights and all that, at the same time during the day, there wasn't too many options for me. So what I definitely focused on myself was made sure I went for walks every day. I kept going to, well, not going to the gym, but I kept doing training with a trainer throughout lockdown, which meant that I was just keeping myself in good shape. I think just making sure that like you're looking after your body and yourself mentally throughout all that by taking time off, just like knowing that it's okay, like to just sit down at like 10 o'clock at night and watch YouTube for a few hours before you go to bed. Like knowing that that is okay rather than studying, just to wind down. And that's something that I do quite a lot. Like when it gets late at night, instead of just stopping studying and going straight to bed, I'll take half an hour to just relax and watch some TV or do something that puts my mind away from the work. So I'm refreshed for the next day.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I think that's such an important piece to success in the HSC and beyond. You've got to have that balance, and it's obviously a very cliche thing. Like, do you have the balance? But it's really important that people remain self-aware of that, and you've got to check in and ask yourself, have I done enough this week? For my body, for my mind, socially. Is there more I could be doing? And then you just act on that. If you feel like you should see some friends, then you need to act and make that happen. So I think that's a really important part, and I'm sure people will be reassured to hear that, even someone right at the top of the state is still very much proactive about all of those things. So definitely keeping active. Let's go through a few of the subjects, because obviously, intelligence, and I want to make this point as well, like intelligence and IQ are huge parts of someone's result, and we can't pretend that that's not a factor. But what we try and focus on here is the work ethic and the systems and the structures. You can be a maths whiz and not go well. Like I actually knew someone, in my year who was doing maths years ahead at a time. So like year 7 doing year 9 maths, right? But they didn't work that hard, and it actually came back to bite by the time we got to year 12, and they really underperformed, in relative to their potential. Everyone watching shouldn't feel that it's just all about natural intelligence. There are actually things you can do work ethic wise that matter a lot.